When was the last time that you assessed how much you are averse to risk? When I say the word averse, most of us are afraid of risk. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how you can learn how to manage and mitigate risk a whole lot better. Here's what's most important. We need to know what we mean when we're both talking about risk. Here's the definition of risk that I particularly like. It says exposure to the chance of injury or loss, a hazard or dangerous chance. You and I face risk every single day. Every bridge we cross, every chair we sit in, every time we get out of bed, there's a risk, especially if you have little ones and they leave Legos all over the place. But you get my point. Risk is something all of us are going to have to deal with in order for us to get the things that we want. But part of the challenge, right, the thing that we have to really work through is going to be fighting our fear. Zig Ziglar used to say that fear forms an acronym for false evidence appearing real. In the middle of risk, we have to know which parts are real and which ones aren't. Sometimes the things I'm afraid of in the middle of risk are the things that I don't know. And so when we're dealing with the unknown, it's easy for us to be afraid because we don't have control over the unknown. We recently purchased a company and I had to assess risk. Was this a company that was going to add to the value of the work that we do? Were the principals going to keep their word? Whatever it was that was going to be their word on the contract. Those are all assessments that you and I have to do. So for this video, the most important thing I want you to hold on to is the fact that your fear is normal and natural. Because if we don't know what's going to happen, we want to control as much as we can. So here's some things that you can do to control the unknown. First of all, know that there's nothing that you and I can do about the unknown. Because if it was something that we knew, we potentially could mitigate that risk. So what we can do though is look at the future and ask ourselves, am I going to be the same person today as I'm going to be 3, 4, 5 years from now, or 3 months or 3 days from now? Most likely not. There's going to be some growth that's going to happen. I have to make decisions with the information that I have today, not with the information I'm afraid of potentially happening tomorrow. So in mitigating that risk, you're going to look, for instance, at a contract and ask yourself, will these people follow through on their component of the contract? And if for some reason they don't follow through, what are my chances of recovering whatever it is I might potentially lose? That gives you and me a sense of peace. So when we were working on our contract, the first thing I wanted to know were the people that were selling this business, were they going to be trustworthy? Were they going to keep their word? Fortunately, I had some history with them, at least with one of the principals I've had 3 years of history with for quite some time now. So I knew that he was trustworthy. As far as his partner, I knew he was trustworthy too, because then the person that I had trust with would probably not be with that person. So there's a lot of logic that we have to use. That means our emotions cannot guide the decisions. So you and I have to learn in the middle of assessing risk, recognizing what it is that we want, what are the obstacles that are going to be in front of what we want, and how can we either get around them, get over them, or move them aside. So when it comes to my fear, the first thing I say to myself is I have myself protected in these specific areas. And if I'm protected in these areas, then I know that whatever additional information comes, I will add it to my decision-making process. The one thing you can never do in the middle of dealing with risk is refuse to make a decision. I've always said indecision is a decision anyway. If I choose to be indecisive about getting up from this chair, I have made the decision to stay in the chair. So indecision is a terrible word anyway. You and I don't want to be in a situation where we're refusing to make decisions. I want us to be decisive. Please, please, please don't put so much pressure on yourself that you need to know the beginning from the end. As you make your decision, you will learn how to become better at assessing and mitigating risk. And part of that has to do with controlling your emotions. We happen to be in a situation right now where the market is not great. Those ebbs and flows, they are part of the risk. And you mitigate your risk by staying into the market longer, for instance. For the record, I'm not giving you financial advice. What I am trying to do, though, is to illustrate how risk is a normal part of what we do, and we have to become more and more comfortable with different types of risk. Here's the crazy part. If you want to do bigger and better things, you're going to have to risk more. It's just the name of the game. You want to go to higher places, you have to risk even more. And the better you become at dealing with the small levels of risk, the easier it becomes to deal with bigger levels of risk. Thank you for joining me in this discussion. I look forward to seeing you in our next talk. Take care.